In a world overflowing with conspiracy theories, it's getting harder to tell who actually believes what they're saying and who's just figured out how to make money from it. David Weiss falls firmly into the second category. He's built a brand, a following, and a steady income by convincing people that the planet we live on isn't round at all, but a stationary disc that's part of one huge lie. And not out of curiosity, not out of conviction, but because he's figured out how to turn people's ignorance into cold, hard cash. So the question we're asking isn't whether the Earth is round, that one was settled thousands of years ago. But what I do want to know is, who is David Weiss? Where did he come from? And why, in the name of all things spherical, does he keep insisting that the Earth is flat? If you try looking David Weiss up online, you'll hit a wall. You'll find physicists, psychologists, lawyers, all respectable people who just happen to share the same name. But the one telling you the Earth is flat, he barely exists. Before Flat Earth Dave, there is almost no trace of him, no professional background, no published work, no credentials that explain how he became an expert on the shape of the planet. Just a bloke who appeared online one day claiming to have seen through the greatest lie in human history.
To show that I am above the counter, the flat Earth, I'm going to just slide this along a perfectly smooth flat Earth. And I'm guessing that it doesn't set.
And that absence isn't an accident. In the world of conspiracies, a blank past is a blank canvas. It lets you write your own story. It's the perfect origin for a grifting turd bag. Anonymous enough to seem like anyone, yet confident enough to sound like someone.
Gravity's an unproven theory.
You got me.
Mass attracting mass, it's so silly. And then detect motion. The Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. That's faster than the speed of sound. So when you watch the sunset, is the sun just going away peacefully as you see it in the local sky? Or are you spinning, falling over backwards faster than the speed of sound, and the sun's kind of staying still?
Probably the second one.
That's what you're taught, but that's
Weiss built his entire identity around that narrative. He didn't need qualifications, he needed a revelation. Science, he says, isn't science, it's faith in the globe. And he, conveniently, has the truth that the experts refuse to see.
How convenient is that? Wow.
It's not enlightenment, it's branding. The story of a man who escaped the system sells a lot better than the truth about gravitational pull. Trust me, it does. So, how do you defend a belief that falls apart the second you measure it? Well, to put it simply, you don't. Ask him for curvature calculations or distance proofs, and he'll tell you he can't verify the maths. Instead, he leans on what feels right. If the horizon looks flat, then the Earth must be flat. It's the scientific method rewritten as a gut feeling. That's the pattern. Turn complexity into conspiracy.
Now, we have the space station. We see those guys up there flipping their stuff around, right? But
floating water,
playing, just playing games
Screw
all the time.
Gravity, no gravity.
Right.
There.
Yeah. So they do all sorts of crazy stuff where they're showing us, where they try to show us. They do it in zero-G planes. One of the ways they do it, and on the image I'm showing you right now, a guy's going around the corner, and there is no corners on a zero-G plane, so he fades out. You can see through him as he goes around the corner. That just shows you that there's CGIing. You could see through the astronaut. And other times they're playing with things and they're manipulating stuff in space. It's called alter. What's the name of it? It's augmented reality, where they're manipulating computer objects. So they're looking either with contact lenses or they're looking at a screen, and they're maneuvering objects around.
Physics becomes faith, astronomy becomes indoctrination, and every expert is part of a shadowy cabal whose only goal is to keep you misinformed. When he does try to talk science, it's usually worse.
Here's a little experiment you can do. You get a flashlight and flash it on the floor 3 feet in front of you. Okay, so from your feet to it is 3 feet, about, whatever. And then spin around, take 1 minute to make a full rotation. Okay? And now you drew a circle 6 feet in diameter, 3 foot radius, right? And then point the light 6 feet away from you. The light has barely moved. It just changed its angle just a tiny little bit. And then spin around at the same rate. You just drew a 12-foot radius circle in the same amount of time without this ever moving. Its focal point just moved just a little bit. Just a little bit. I'm not saying that's how it works. I'm saying there's an example of how it could work.
He's claimed that spacecraft should melt in the thermosphere because it's thousands of degrees hot, ignoring the fact that there's barely any air to transfer heat. He argued that you can't get sunburnt in winter, apparently unaware that snow reflects sunlight like a mirror. These aren't careless mistakes from Dave either, they're tactics. He takes something that sounds technical, strips away the context, and sells the confusion back to his audience as proof that science can't be trusted.
Do you remember where they told you stars come from? Do you remember nebulas? Right, so they showed us the Crab Nebula and like, this is dust and gas in space. Well, that's a problem. Dust and gas in a space vacuum, that's impossible. Let's just pretend there is. And they say that sometimes the gases will start compiling and it'll create a sun. Why doesn't the entire nebula just compile into there? So it makes it says, okay, I've got a sun the size of our sun or the size of Betelgeuse, which is like 1 billion times bigger than our sun. And it says, okay, I'm done accumulating gas. And now I'm going to pop out like a ping pong ball machine and park myself somewhere. None of it makes any sense whatsoever.
The formula works. Confidence beats accuracy every time. And for David Weiss, the only thing flatter than the Earth is the learning curve of the people paying attention. Eventually, words just weren't enough. Weiss needed a product, something his followers could hold, download, and more importantly, pay for.
It's time you learned the truth of our world and connected with like-minded people. The Flat Earth Sun, Moon and Zodiac Clock app by Blue Water Bay. Find your tribe and take our world back.
But, like most things in this story, the reality was less spiritual and more cynical. Now, in 2022, users discovered that Weiss's app was quietly collecting their location data and sharing it with third parties. The community that spends every waking hour warning about government surveillance had been handing over their coordinates to a man who told them the sky was fake. And for a movement built on distrust, that should have been the breaking point. But it wasn't. Instead of turning on Weiss, his followers turned on the story itself. They called it a smear campaign, a media setup, another round of mainstream lies. Because once you build your identity on suspicion, even evidence of betrayal becomes just more proof that you were right all along. The app tracked more than just their data. It tracked their faith in David Weiss. So by the time the scandal hit, most of them had already paid for the next update. Every conspiracy has got a breaking point, a single flaw that should collapse the whole thing if reason still mattered. For flat earthers, it's Antarctica.
The globe science community lies about. For example, the 24-hour sun in Antarctica doesn't work on a flat earth. It works in the north, but not in the south. Well, guess what? There's thousands of videos of the 24-hour sun and from Alaska and Norway and, very northern places. You can book vacations and go and watch it in June, right? But in December, the same thing should happen in Antarctica, and it doesn't.
Now, in their model, Antarctica isn't a continent. It's an enormous ice wall, circling the world like a cosmic fence to stop the oceans from spilling over into space. It's dramatic. It's cinematic. It's also completely impossible. The problem is sunlight. Now, on a flat Earth, the sun should rise and set across the entire world every single day. But in Antarctica, it doesn't. For weeks at a time, the sun just doesn't set. Something only possible on a sphere tilted on its axis. And that contradiction gave rise to their favourite cover story, the 1959 Antarctic Treaty.
Antarctica is protected by the nations of the world under an agreement called the Antarctic Treaty, including the Protocol on Environmental Protection. The Antarctic Treaty is from 1959. The treaty started with 12 nations, and since then it's been subscribed to by many others, and so we have a large group of countries in the world who are involved in this management arrangement. Historically, a number of nations, including Australia, had claims to Antarctic territory, and because of the potential that those claims could become contentious, the Antarctic Treaty that set aside those claims, and so Antarctica under the treaty was dedicated to peaceful use and scientific activity and scientific cooperation.
Now, in the minds of flat earthers, it isn't a global agreement about science and preservation. It's a military pact to hide the truth about the edge of the world. And then one day, someone decided to call their bluff. Enter Will Duffy.
It took me over a year to come up with the final experiment. Every time I would come up with an idea, it would just never work. And then one day, I got it. But I should probably go back to the very beginning. I'm Will Duffy, and I pastor a small church in Colorado. The day was August 2nd, 2021. I was scrolling through Facebook, and a friend of mine, her name is Wendy, she posted something about flat Earth. And at first, I thought she must be joking, but there was no punchline. So I read the comments, and it seemed genuine. This was very peculiar to me. How could someone today, in the 21st century, think the Earth is flat?
Will launched the final experiment, an expedition to Antarctica designed to settle the question once and for all. Will put up the money himself, $100,000, and invited 10 flat earthers and 10 flat earth debunkers to travel to Union Glacier Camp and witness the 24-hour Antarctic sun with their own eyes, completely free of charge. A few actually went. Now, Dave Weiss was offered a spot on the trip, but turned it down instantly. Oh yeah, I wonder why.
There is no midnight sun in Antarctica.
What they saw in Antarctica matched exactly what physics had predicted for centuries. The sun circling the horizon without setting. 4 days, continuous daylight. No dawn, no edge, no cover-up. For a brief moment, it looked like it might change something. But it didn't. Instead of accepting what they'd witnessed, the final experiment tore the flat earth community apart from the inside. The flat earthers who did accept what they saw were immediately ostracized and discredited by the same people who had once labeled them friends and truth seekers. The easiest thing to deny is the evidence right in front of you. Because for flat earthers, the goal isn't to find the truth. It's to protect the story that gives them purpose. Now, at this point, it's clear that Dave Weiss does not believe in science. He believes in the business of disbelief. Flat Earth for him isn't a theory, it's a product. The podcasts, the merch, the app, the speaking gigs, they all depend on one thing: keeping the lie alive. If he admits the Earth is round, the entire empire collapses, the followers disappear, the income stops. He becomes just another guy who was wrong on the internet. So he doubles down. Every debunk, every failed prediction, every contradiction becomes proof that they are trying to silence him. Because at its core, the Flat Earth movement is not about science. It's about belonging. It's about distrust. It's about the comfort of feeling like you know something that everyone else doesn't. In the end, Flat Earth was never really about the shape of the planet. It was about the people who realized there's money to be made from doubt. And for David Weiss, that doubt has been more valuable than any proof could ever be. Because if the truth doesn't pay, there will always be somebody willing to sell the lie.
I don't think so. No, 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 no. I don't think so. No, 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 no. It's never, ever, 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 ever